Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 25 of the Business and Beyond podcast. I'm your host, Chris Doyle. Episode 25 here with good old Khash Saghafi. Khash, how you doing?
Doing good, Chris. Thanks for having me on again. This is the second time I've been on, I think.
Well, the first time was very it was very rough. You know,
that was the dry run. That was the dry one. That was the dry run.
We're filming like 2002 or something.
Yeah, this is true. I won't go back that far. But yes, I agree with you.
So Khash is CEO, president of Liberty Home Mortgage. Lots to talk about in our current market and business and everything. A lot of stuff going on in the world. And but yeah, I just wanted to start with, for those who don't know you, who just want to get to know you a little bit more. Who is Khash Saghafi, and what are you doing today?
So ultimately, Chris, I appreciate it. So ultimately, I own a mortgage company, of course. So we do mortgages for 1 to 4 family residential properties, whether someone's buying or refinancing a home. So I've been doing this now for 23 years. This is ultimately my career. This is my livelihood. And no, it's a great job. It's a great industry to be in. I mean, real estate, as far as a career goes, I think is great because everyone needs to live somewhere, right?
Yeah,
you have to have a roof over your head. So I think the opportunity that this job or this career gives you, and it's sales ultimately, and sales is sales. I was just speaking to a customer on the phone just now that they were a director for the marketing of an international company.
Oh, wow.
And we were talking about sales, and she said that Home Depot is mad with us right now. So I got to go do a little schmoozing. So I was talking about like what you do. She says, Khash, I've gone on international trips to make people happy.
Yeah.
I'm not much into it, but this is what we do. So that's sales.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all types of sales, But this sales that I'm in, that we're in, I love it just because it's real estate. It's so big. It covers such a wide variety of life. I mean, it covers everything, so it's a big deal, and it's where I am, and it's what we've done. So I think it's pretty good though.
Mm-hmm. And so you've been in the industry 23 years. How did you get into the industry?
I got into the industry because ultimately I was looking for something to do as far as a career, trying a lot of different things, kind of a jack of all trades, a master of none.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My one friend was doing mortgages, and that seemed like in the wheelhouse. It was in real estate. So we were doing real estate. We were buying and selling houses while we were buying and selling stocks and doing things like that too, and day trading.
Yeah.
And ultimately I started doing mortgages, and it caught on, and I got good at it, and I just focused in on it and applied principles that I learned from the sport of wrestling, as we've always spoken. You yourself a great wrestler, All-American, NCAA All-American. So
Thank you.
Applying the same principles there to this job, and the next thing I know is like it was success. We've discovered a little bit of success. I shouldn't say completely, because there's been a lot of downturns.
Which we'll get into for sure.
Easily. I mean, it's like anything. If you do anything long enough, you're going to run into problems. So, and that's how I got into this.
But your background, so you went to college at Oklahoma State, but you weren't in finance. You weren't in business, right?
My undergraduate degree was in biology. I'm a science guy.
Yeah,
Yes.
science guy.
My career path was to be a doctor. That's what I always wanted to be. It's probably the only regret in my life that I never became a doctor, but ultimately that's okay. I don't really dwell on the past. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So no, I'm a science guy. The upside to science that I ended up learning was it's all numbers. So suddenly when I went into this job, it was sort of like I was already good at numbers. So there was really nothing to learn other than guidelines, which quite honestly, it's not difficult. There's a guideline book. You just have to read it. So it's kind of like just like school, you just study the book and read the book, and you got to do it constantly. You're constantly sharpening your tools, constantly sharpening the axe, getting better at the job, trying to get better at the job, and you can never get too far ahead of yourself and think that you figured it out. Just when you think you figured it out, that's when you get your face slammed into.
You get humbled real quick.
You get humbled
100%. And so 23 years going chronologically then, so you've been at a couple banks, right? And
yeah, so I started off working for a very large national mortgage company in 1999, 2000. Then I went and opened up my own place, started with a partner, then we split there. Then ultimately the mortgage crisis happened. At that point, they changed the net worth and the laws that govern the industry. So I shut my company down, moved over to some other companies over the time, then ultimately opened up Liberty Home Mortgage when I had the financials to do it. From the mortgage crisis, they changed the financial structure and framework of what you had to have to even own a lending institution.
Okay.
So that affected a lot of the industry in a good way, because at the end of the day, it thins the herd. And then you just keep working, keep working hard, keep focused on the basic principles and philosophies of what you do. And we ended up back to here, which is where I am now.
100%. And just to uncover the story, I've heard it a million times, but for those who haven't, it's a great story. So and we've had our VP, Melissa Smith, on previously, and she's told the story a little bit. But when you were transitioning into opening Liberty Home Mortgage, it was only you two.
It was only Melissa and myself. So it's funny because ultimately, I always knew that I had a better way to do things. In the early 2000s, I didn't know what I didn't know. So when I went to people and went to places to get information, I wasn't directed as well as I think I could have been directed, but ultimately it is what it is. But I learned through experience. And then working at other places, I was like, this just isn't right. I've got to own the place myself, which, to be completely honest with you, owning the company is not something that I'm that thrilled with.
Yeah.
Because you also have to deal with a lot of other things. They have nothing to do with doing mortgages. Yeah. I like doing mortgages. I like talking to customers. I like looking at their financial picture and figuring out, can they fit into this, this box that we're trying to put them into, get them qualified for a home loan. Owning the company, of course, comes with a lot of other things. We're the building that we're sitting in right now. When the toilets back up, I got to deal with the toilets. And I don't clean them, for God's sakes. Not to clean toilets is bad. I've cleaned the toilets in this building. But the point is I have to hear about that. And I have to, the plumber's coming in. Who cares? But that's what ownership brings with it. But ultimately, I knew that to get things the way I wanted, I had to own the company. So I was willing to take on all of the bad sides of ownership to get what I thought were the good sides of it. So ultimately, when I got to where I needed to be financially to open the company, which was in 2014, it was just myself and Melissa, of course, was my processor. And I actually went to Melissa and just said, hey, listen, when she came on board with me, I didn't tell her I was almost ready to open my own company because that wouldn't have made her feel that comfortable. Yeah. So I just said, hey, listen, I'm opening my own company. If you want to stay at this place, you're more than welcome to stay. I get it. That's fine. In my head, I was thinking this is a sinking ship. Like, if you don't get off, you're a blind fool. But I didn't say that, though. And I said, I'd love you to come with me. You come on board with me. I have no, I can't tell you where we're going to go. All I can tell you is I'm going to do the best I can do. You just have to trust me with it. And she was like, screw that. I'm coming with you. Yeah. So we literally just took the license of the bank we were at. We just took that license off the wall and put this license on the wall. That's how our industry works. I mean, if I go to move to Hawaii and live on the beach, I could take my license and hang it on a palm tree. It's a pretty cool job like that you could literally do from anywhere. So we opened. It was Melissa and myself. I was originating loans. She was handling all of the support. She was processing, underwriting, closing, post-closing, selling. She was doing all of that. And my job was, I just had to go hustle for business. I didn't have time to worry about the other stuff. She put her trust in me in getting the business, and then she built out the support. She legitimately has done every job there is other than selling loans. That's it. Yeah. So I'm lucky that it was her because she's so put together just with how she does things in structure, which is how I am. And we kind of just worked and kept working hard and believing in the process and trusting the process. And we are to where we are. We've had twists and turns.
Yeah, absolutely. Every business, of course, does. And so talk about so a lot of people say, right, the statistic is most businesses fail within 2 years, right? 24 months. So, which is essentially one of the hardest parts is just building the thing.
Absolutely.
So talk about that real quick. Just the first couple of years that you were building Liberty Home Mortgage.
It was, because I have age and experience behind me, I already had the experience of knowing what curves were going to be coming at me. If I jumped all the way back to 2002, which was my first business, can't say it was my first business, but overall it was my first structured business. That's when I was cash advancing credit cards to do payroll and talk about flying by the seat of your pants. Now, I wasn't cash advancing credit cards to do payroll with Liberty, but man, there was some times that the bank account was running thin and it was intense, man. It was intense. But ultimately, you have to know where all of your income and your expenses are at. I always tell people, it's just coming up with a budget. You got to know your income. You've got to know your expenses. You got to manage the expenses, and you got to drive in as much income as humanly possible. That means you got to go out there and make as many calls, work as many days, work as many hours, vacations, sick days, all that stuff. You got to leave it all at the door.
Yeah.
And you just got to work. And it's intense, man.
Yeah. I remember when you first hired me, I had to do my 90 days straight.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, you got to be shitting me here.
Yeah.
But it worked, right? Because between in those 90 days, I just gained so much experience.
Yeah.
Because it was forced down my throat, you know what I mean? So it was like you're able to learn so much in such a short amount of time as opposed to someone who's working 9 to 5 Monday through Friday.
You were unique in that you were already mature emotionally, mentally. You were already structured. So it was just plugging you in and showing you, really introducing you to the grisly, brutal side of the industry. Like, dude, this is intense. If you want to be great at it, and that's why you've gone up. Now, trust me, you've done this 3 years. Now I've done it 23 years. Mm-hmm. You're going to have your downturns. You're like, even right now, this is a downturn. Mm-hmm. I did not think I would ever see something as bad as the foreclosure crisis as ever again in my life. I was like, I made it through that. I'm bulletproof now. And then we run into this. Inflation's at a record high. This is the highest inflation's been since 1982. Mm-hmm. You start running into this. There's no houses on the market. I never imagined in my wildest dreams inventory would ever become a problem. I don't even know how you imagine that it would. Like there's 70 million homeowners in the United States. How in the world do you have a shortage of inventory? But somehow there's a shortage. I mean, how do you have a shortage on lumber? How do you have a shortage on steel? There's a shortage of nothing. I click an Amazon button right now and I could have, I bought these Elvis glasses just about a month or two ago for Tom Gallagher, as a matter of fact, because he's doing his skits on his videos and stuff like that. Yeah. So I went on to Amazon and I clicked on Elvis Presley glasses, like these golden glasses. I'm not kidding you. That was like at 11 in the morning. Somehow it said they had it on the shelf and they delivered it by 2:00 that same day.
Yeah.
How in the world a pair of Elvis glasses were sitting on the shelf somewhere in this universe such that some human being can grab it and drive it to this building inside of 3 or 4 hours beyond me? So somehow I can get Amazon to deliver stuff inside of a few hours, but there's a shortage on lumber and a lot of other commodities and things like that in the industry. So, I mean, there's a crazy time we're in.
Absolutely. And that's a good segue as, I'm kind of looking at some statistics and stuff that we talked about yesterday. So you do, on Mondays, we have meetings with you, like a lot of the loan officers and anybody who's wanting to come in and listen. You had a great speech yesterday about, about rates, target rates, the inflation rates and everything. But before we get into that, how did we get into such a point, kind of back up for us to where we're at now where, there is such a hold on inventory? How do we get to this point?
Well, ultimately, I believe you have to look at the supply chain.
Okay.
I've never been big on that term. As a matter of fact, I've always known what the term is, I suppose, a supply chain, but I've never paid attention to it. There was a very, very nice real estate agent that came up to me after my seminar I did one time in Westlake. He said, Hesh, everything you showed today was actually a supply chain. So I said, oh, wow, that's interesting. So have you dealt with that? He said, I was an engineer for 35 years for UPS, and my job was supply chain management or whatever it was. And he explained to me his perspective of a supply chain. He was like, well, for UPS, one of our jobs in the managing a supply chain was making sure that the trucks made as many right turns as possible on their delivery route. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, why right turns? He said, think about it. Because you have to make a left turn on the road. You have to be at a stoplight. You slow down. So naturally, now do that through 200 stops a day, through 10 billion locations. The next thing you know, how much time is wasted sitting at stoplights. So if you can make right turns constantly, the truck never stops. So since then, I've been really interested in supply chains or learning more about supply chains. So ultimately, you cut off the supply chain, you shut down the sawmill. COVID comes along, shuts down every job to the point where we can't drive on the roads. We can't leave our houses for a short time. There was that April of 2020 when I don't know if I drove my car. I don't think anybody left their house.
Oh yeah.
Nobody bought anything. It was just done. So suddenly you have that. Well, imagine a sawmill. Shut a sawmill down that produces 10,000 planks of wood a day or whatever in the world they do. Well, shut them all down to literally a complete stop for a period of 1 month, 2 months, 10 months, 1 year. Well, you're going to start getting so backlogged with orders. And on top of that, so your production is going to be so down that your amount of product, your inventory or supply of product is going to be next to nothing, but your demand is going to go through the roof, not because demand's going up, but demand's piling on itself. Somebody that wanted the lumber yesterday still wants it today. Somebody that wants the lumber today goes on top of the person yesterday. Somebody that wants it tomorrow. Somebody today might be saying, we don't need the lumber for 6 months. But if you shut that thing down for a year, you start piling all of those orders on top of each other. That's how you end up where we are today. The supply chains are still cut off. And the problem that creates is we can't get what we need to do what we need to do and function.
Yeah.
So this economy literally came to a stop. I will tell you the difference between this economy and the economy in 06, 07, 08, 09 was we didn't have the financial tools to properly identify where the problems were at. So when that collapse occurred, now the economy didn't shut down, it broke. And we were trying to learn where everything was, but we were learning as we went. That's why it took so long. You move to today, the economy stopped and the economy started. To stop. So that's why you're not going to see, I do not believe, a massive pullback in the stock market. You're not going to see massive pullbacks almost in anything. It's starting and stopping. The problem is you're starting and stopping bigger than a warship. The economy of this country is just absolutely gigantic.
Yeah.
So when you stopped it, which they did, it's going to take more than 2 years to start the thing back up. And when they start stopping it again, I mean, I've already heard that this winter COVID might go on the rise again. So they're already talking about more masks and mandates. And just when you start talking about that, you want to shut more businesses down. They've never properly allowed this economy to get consistently going again. I think it's about to, it's not going to get shut down again, but just slowing it down. You're
talking like monetary policy, like Federal Reserve.
No, not really policy. I'm talking about physical shutdowns.
You got it.
When you say, when it's on the news, and I really don't watch the news. I don't. When the news was on the TV, I was at a restaurant the other day, and the news was on the TV, so it just happened to be in front of me.
Sure.
And they were talking about the government asking for a few $1 billion more for COVID coming back through this winter time, and more masks mandate and shutting down. They said New York is up 30% in COVID. Well, here's what's going to happen. They're going to shut everything down again. They're going to say, if you go anywhere, you got to wear a mask, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. And I understand it to an extent. To an extent, I do understand it. But when you start shutting everything down again, just when the economy starts going again, you shut it down again. I liken everything to wrestling. It's summertime, I'm out of shape. My diet stinks. Well, just as I start getting in shape, I stop again. So you're not giving yourself the chance to really fully get in shape, and you keep stopping.
Yeah.
Well, you're never going to get there.
Yeah. I mean, you look at places like Lowe's or Home Depot, when they have orders of lumber, they're going to have to over order to compensate for, contractors and stuff like that. And then it just has ripples throughout the economy, ripples throughout the supply chain.
100%.
And everything.
And then when you stop those orders, even slow them down, you have to stop, you slow them down. You don't give anything the chance to get back to normal. So the truth is, we're 2 years outside of COVID. I don't know if they slow things down again this wintertime. We might be 3 years out of COVID, 4 years out of COVID. So I think this is going to take a while to really get all positions, get everything back to normal or some sort of normalcy.
Yeah.
But we'll wait to see. It's going to be interesting.
In terms of normalcy, in terms of our industry, you're saying to when, hey, we're not in freaking 10 plus multiple offer situations, when purchase prices, people are going $30,000 over the ask price. It's going to be more to, hey, there's more options to choose from for home buyers. Is that kind of a normalcy?
No, there's no question. It's a more balanced inventory, balanced supply. That's more normalcy. The problem is, I've been saying this since 2018, actually. In 2018, when did you get into the industry?
August 2018.
So August 2018. So actually in 2018, what I was telling people was that's when the overbidding began. Nowhere near the level of today because there was way more supply. But you still had people going over asking price in 2018. That's when it began. Back then, I used to tell people that the problem is supply, because the reason people are going over ask price is because there's not as many houses out there to pick from. So I would say to people that the problem is supply. That's going to be our problem. I never imagined, mind you, nobody could ever predict it was to this extent, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
But the one thing I would always tell people, Chris, is I can give you every formula to predict interest rates. The Fed's going to do 2 more 50 basis point raises. I can't say I believe it. I won't believe it until I see it. I want them to do 250 basis point raises. I don't think they're going to, but that's beside the point. I can do all the math behind it. I can tell you why they're doing it, what effect it's going to have, whatever it all is. I can't tell you when somebody's going to list their home for sale. That's the problem. I used to say that in 2018. You guys, I can't predict supply.
Yeah.
When someone's going to list their home, you own homes.
Yes.
You going to sell them anytime soon?
Absolutely not.
Why not? Because it's the best time to sell. Stock is at an all-time high in price-wise.
Yeah. I like my interest rates right now.
There you go. But do you see what I'm saying? Like, I can't predict when that you might just on a whim, get married, have a family. You're getting married. You have a family. You find out you're having children, and all of a sudden, just bam, it hits you in the side of the head. Like, we gotta sell these.
Yeah.
That's the problem with inventory, is that it's dependent upon you, and you're not measurable, and I can't really calculate you. Human beings are not. They're not predictable.
Yeah.
They're very unpredictable.
Exactly.
When the Federal Reserve, the reason the Fed's raising the Fed funds rate is because of inflation. Now, if we could change the name of the show to the real truth, the raw truth, right?
Yeah, right.
Then I'll turn into a lunatic. But that's all predictable stuff. I could tell you why the Fed's raising the Fed funds rate. I could tell you why inflation is high. I could tell you how you get it down, how they get down. That's all stuff you could measure.
Yes.
When it comes to, why aren't there more houses on the market? You have to go talk to each individual, and each individual who's not selling their home.
Yeah.
I'm not selling my home because there's nothing out there that interests me, and I don't feel like moving, and I've been in my house for 20 years and I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't have to move. So, every individual is different. You like your interest rates. I just don't feel like moving because I don't care to.
Yeah.
So everyone's got different. It's so individual and so granular. Can't predict it.
And I remember one thing we were talking about a couple months ago when we look at lumber is, for new builds, right? When that supply chain stops, you have the typical American who buys their first home, they get out, they buy, they increase in their family. And then, there's a point in time where they either buy the bigger existing home or they do the new build, right? And we were talking where, hey, new builds are so slow right now that they're not coming up, that also has a squeeze on the amount of inventory that's coming up.
There's no question, because you have the move-up buyers, right?
Exactly.
Your first home you buy historically is not a $700,000 new build, okay? So you buy your first home, your starter home, then you typically move into a second one, then you typically go new construction. Not for everybody, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
But that's the progression of it.
But there's a good amount.
A good amount of them.
Yeah.
But when you cap out when you choke off the new construction at the top of the chain, it starts trickling down, because now the person who would normally move into new construction can't. So now they're not moving out of their house. Their house represents the second home of somebody who bought their first. Now it's just a domino effect straight down the chain. So it is what happens, and it is how the progression's gone. So cutting off the lumber, the steel, and things like that has had a reverse effect because it affected new construction. Chris, I've always told people this, I'd say I don't care about new construction.
Yeah.
I don't deal with it. I deal with first-time home buyers, and my average sales price is just a normal home in Northeast Ohio, and that's fine. Well, today I care about new construction. Not because I'm doing construction loans, but we need more houses we need more inventory. So that's why I'm very, very interested in new construction. And what affects new construction is the supply of lumber, steel, and all the things that make a house.
Yes. So, and we were talking yesterday in our meeting yesterday. So, you 100% believe we're in a downward slope currently.
This is the downturn. This is it. This is the grind. This is absolutely it. No question about it.
So what advice would you give to real estate agents, loan officers, people in our industry who, may be struggling to find a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel?
Absolutely. So I saw a post yesterday on social media where the person posted that there was a real estate agent who posted, my credit cards are maxed out. I could barely pay my bills at this point. I've got nothing on the horizon in real estate, and I got to feed my kids. So kudos to the person who puts all that out there, because that shows that, hey, God bless you. I feel terrible for you, but God bless you putting the truth out there.
Geez.
And it's funny, because I was just in a meeting this morning with a different real estate, with actually a real estate agent group, where I was specifically talking about this specific thing, because they were saying quite a few agents are struggling out there. What I told them is the same thing I tell you, is the same thing I tell your audience, is anytime my back has been against the wall financially, which has been a few times, okay? Anytime it has, I narrow my vision, narrow my focus, and the only thing I care about are my day-to-day actions. Give you an example. In 2009, I had $600,000 in credit card debt. So I always tell the story of in 2005, I was almost debt free, had good sizable amount of money in the bank. I was like, this is the way it's supposed to be. Like, this is it. Like, I made it. Now, I didn't suddenly take 5 vacations and get lazy, but I said, this is the way it's supposed to be, whatever. And I kept working. And then all of a sudden I hit a brick wall. By 2009, I went from no debt to $600,000 on credit cards, a couple $100,000 in a 401k, cash in the bank. That was just all gone, right? So I'm just buried in debt. So when I was buried in debt, and I was just like my brothers were telling me, just walk from your house, move back to mom and dad's house, let it get foreclosed down. Who cares? You don't need this house anyways, whatever. And those were things I was taking into serious consideration. Sure. I spoke to my attorney, Dave Weilbacher. He gave me the intake papers to file for bankruptcy. And Dave said, listen, fill these out. When you get them filled out, get them back to me. I'll get this thing filed. We'll clear all of this debt. So that's how bad the financing, my situation was at the time. When I was in that situation, or somebody else watching right now is in that situation today. Now, maybe they don't have I hope to God they don't have $600,000 of credit card debt. But, you have that financial situation. What I tell people, Chris, what I did was I narrowed my focus down to my daily actions. I didn't dwell on yesterday because that was in the past. Can't change it. I didn't dwell and say, man, I went to Los Angeles and I used to pay. I mean, my God, I could go on for hours in this stuff. It was the Crown Plaza in Sherman Oaks, California. You go 405 northbound, you get off at Ventura, it hooks around to the right, you hit a stoplight, you turn left, first stoplight, you turn left, hotel's on the right. You're paying $5,000 a month for that room, another few grand for the people parking there and eating food.
For sure.
You remember that stuff too, right?
Yeah.
So I used to do seminars at that hotel. It's $5,000 a seminar there. I used to do seminars all the time. Never got any business out of it. I may have gotten 1 or 2 deals, but I didn't get that much business at all. That's where all my money was. I could have dwelled and been like so angry about, man, I went out there. I shouldn't have gone there. I never looked at the past because I just said, what good does it do me? It's not productive. It serves no purpose. Looking into the future, well, where am I going to be in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months or 10 months? Didn't serve no purpose because it was, quite honestly, it was too overwhelming to try to figure out where I'd be. So I just looked at, what do I have to do today? What do I have to do today? I have to make phone calls. I have to send emails. I have to network. I have to shake the bushes. I have to talk to customers. I have to research what's going on in the market so I can properly educate people. So I only worried about what I was doing today. And at that time, Chris, I truly got it down to hour by hour. I would literally start off and say, okay, by 8 a.m. I have to have all this done. And then I would do it. 8 a.m., 8 to 9 a.m. I've got to do this. So I used to go hour by hour. It was a crawl.
Yeah.
It's all I worried about, day by day by day. Now, mind you, I kept doing the same thing every single day. Ultimately, I did not declare bankruptcy. I paid off the credit card debt, got debt free, opened up this company. We're in a pretty good financial situation for what's happening right now. Now, so what I tell people, Chris, is narrow your focus. Only worry about what you have to do today. That's it. But then you have to execute and you have to do it.
Yes.
That's the hard part. A lot of people get depressed. They get overwhelmed. They make excuses. And there's a million excuses out there, and everyone's got a legitimate excuse, whether it's the kids, the family, the wife, I want to have a life, I need a vacation, the work-life balance. All of this stuff that you hear people saying is just, if I'd have gone to any of that as my crutch, I would not be where I am today. So there's a lot of times, Chris, I've said that I would love to go back in time and shake my hand in 2009 and say, thank you for not quitting because you didn't quit back then. Today, you are where you always dreamed and imagined you'd be. I'm actually further ahead of where I dreamed of back in 2002 when I set my goal. But that's how you handle downturns and situations. You got to step up.
Yeah. I mean, Warren Buffett always says, he makes the most amount of money in the recessions, So like, why sell out and cut your losses when you could just keep going, keep making more money eventually? Because, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I think just because we're in a little bit of a blip right now in our industry doesn't mean it's for eternity, right? Like, good times don't last, but neither do the bad times.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, you look, Chris, at the recession of 2007. They called it the Great Recession. It was the biggest recession since the Great Depression, which to say that you're second behind the Great Depression anything is like pretty bad, okay? So back then, like you don't remember how bad that was. To you, it doesn't even exist. You've had some great years, doing what this industry allows you to do and stuff like that. So the truth is that was 2007 to 2009 was the Great Recession. At this point, that started 15 years ago. In 15 years from now, when it's 2037, Chris, you're going to be talking to somebody because hopefully by the grace of God, I'm not doing this job anymore in 15 years. I love the job, but 23 years. I hope 15 years from now I'm done. You're taking it over. But seriously, when you're talking to somebody who's your age in 15 years and you're more towards my age and you're talking to somebody who's 23, 24, 25, they're going to be sitting here saying, Chris, so like, how's this downturn?
Yeah.
And you might very well say, this downturn is like it was back in 2022. I didn't really think so, but we did this and inflation went to a record high, the highest it's ever been in 40 years and on and on and on. And the truth of the matter is like that person in 2038, they're not gonna remember this. And they're gonna be saying, this is the greatest year in real estate. And you're gonna say, man, that's what I was saying. I remember, Chris, in 2004 and 5 when, man, it was like, it was just nuts.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
But the truth is, it wasn't crazier than 2020. 2020 was the biggest year in volume our industry has ever seen, over $4 trillion in mortgage loans.
Yeah, everyone was reaping rewards. Yeah.
Everyone. That was the biggest in volume, bigger than 2005. But in my memory, I don't see 2020 as the craziest year. I remember it as 2004-5. But you don't even think about that.
Yeah.
Just like the downturn, 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It was so long because the economy didn't shut down and start. Our problem right now is the economy was stopped and started. That's our whole problem. Back then, there was major problems in certain segments of how things were done. And that's what screwed everything up. And we had to watch it wind itself down and then wind it back up. But you don't know any of that stuff. This is going to be a minor blip on the radar.
Exactly. And I think a lot of good things will happen for those who do stay, right? Because Jill Renee Hill, right? She talks a lot about branding.
Yep.
Well, if you can be the person that stays here right now and everyone else is exiting, who's gonna send you business eventually when no one else is there?
There's no question. Like for you, Chris, you're young. You're 3-4 years into the job now. I remember when I was like 5 years in, and I would talk to people, and they'd say, Hash, I've done this for 30 years. And I was like, yeah, I've done this for 4 years now. And I was just sitting there saying, God, I can't really compete with them on that level. I've got to spin the conversation somewhere else. Well, now that I'm 23 years in, I will tell you that it's a great feeling because it's a damn good counter when somebody says, Hash, like, how long have you done this? 23 years. What do you want to know about?
Yeah.
Okay. The recession in 01, the Great Recession, or you want to know about the COVID, or you want to know about where we're at right now. So age and experience comes to help you. And that's why getting out of the industry, I don't care what industry you go into, go sell cars. Go talk to a car salesman. I mean, for God's sakes, they can't get cars on the lot.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean, it's horrible. And if they weren't already beaten down enough, I mean, you just print out your Carfax, walk onto a car lot and go beat the hell out of them on their prices. That was before COVID. Then COVID comes. Now there's no cars on the lot at all. I mean, car sales, go into any sales job you want to go into. It's going to have its ups. It's going to have its downs. I've always said, Chris, as you know this is where I decide to make my stand. I'm not going to quit and get out because it's getting difficult. Todd, the head coach of Brex, where I help out here and there wrestling wise, he always tells the kids, once you quit at anything in life, it becomes that much easier to quit the next time. Then you're going to quit the next time, the next time, the next time.
Yep.
So it's just, you got to stay in it. You got to stay strong. You got to dig in deeper. The upside to this job is, this is, you could do it from anywhere. You're walking around at home and as long as you got your phone, you're good. The downside of this job is you could do it from anywhere. That's the downside of the job.
No doubt. And I appreciate it. I'm sure a lot of people who are watching are going to really appreciate, those words and just, staying strong, stay granular, be able to take everything day by day, right?
It's put in the hours, you know that.
Absolutely. And I kind of want to reflect a little bit about our meeting yesterday. It was super interesting. And I'm sure you've done a very extensive research because, as I know as anybody else who knows you, you are, one of the top loan officers in the country because you're a student. You're always learning. Whether it's guidelines, history, the mathematics, even though the mathematics of our industry are not that difficult. But,
it's true.
But nonetheless, you're a student of our industry, right? And we were talking yesterday about the Fed funds rate, the response to the Fed, how they're going to go ahead and respond to our current crisis, right? And that's kind of what I want to go into. So the Federal Reserve raised their base interest rate 0.25% last week or 2 weeks ago.
They raised it 0.25%, I want to say a month and a half ago at the Fed meeting.
Yes. And it's supposed to go...
It was 50 basis points last week.
Yes, 50 basis points.
So 25 and 50 in 2 raises.
June 15th is the next quarter increase, right?
50 basis points is what they say.
Correct. Now, our industry is already they've raised rates in anticipation of all of
100%.
So when someone says, "Oh, the Fed's meeting, they're going to raise rates. My interest rate's going up. I need you to lock it, whenever." Well, you were telling us, "Hey, that's not how it works," and you went over a bunch of different things. So I kind of want to start there. So first, we'll talk about quantitative tightening, quantitative easing, but why does the Fed raise their base interest rate first?
The Federal Reserve, from the time of Paul Volcker, when he took the position in 1979, he changed the stance that was being used by President Carter, President Nixon, which was price controls. They believed they can control inflation with price controls. The problem with inflation is everything's too expensive. So the government came in and said, "Hey, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to say you can't charge somebody more than this amount of money." The problem is businesses run on, they've got to make revenue, they got to make money, and there's a certain cost to doing business. So when you stop the business from charging what it charges, what it believes is the charge commensurate to operate the business, you're going to put a lot of businesses out, and it's not going to have the effect you want. So Volcker came in and said, "I believe we're not going to control inflation with price controls. We're going to control inflation with interest rates. And the way that we're going to dictate how inflation is handled by controlling rates is when you control the rates, you control people's spending habits." So that's when Volcker raised the Fed funds rate up to obscene levels in the teens, which ultimately drove mortgage rates. I think it was April 1983. I think they were at 19 to 21%.
Oh my gosh.
Astronomically high. Right?
Yeah.
But it stopped spending. It brought inflation under control. And we've experienced a fairly good inflationary environment now for 40 years. COVID, stopping and starting the economy, the supply chains, has now broken that. Now inflation's through the roof. Now there's a lot of other reasons for it. And if we have any, trust me, you want to start getting political, people start throwing things at the camera watching me talk. But accepting the information that the government has given us is accurate and true.
Correct, yeah.
The bottom line is the Federal Reserve their job is controlling inflation. And they do that by controlling the Fed funds rate. And when inflation's high, they want to raise rates to stop spending. So when they stop, that's how they control spending. You stop spending, you're going to control inflation.
And so 10 more times, right? We're going to, I think 7 more times.
They said, Chairman Powell said in December, they had 10 rate increases slated for the next 24 months, which I called BS on. No way are they raising the Fed funds rate 10 times. It's just not happening. Now, mind you, they raised it 9 times from December of 15 to December of 18 in 3 years. They really did. But they were talking about getting a lot more aggressive on the rates, on the Fed funds rate. So they've raised it twice so far. They raised it a quarter and they raised it a half. Right now it's between 0.75 to 1%. Chairman Powell wants to get it up to 2 to 2.5%. Now people are watching me saying, well, what in God's name is 2.5%? Throw all that garbage out the window. Here's the bottom line. They want to get it up higher. They want to get it up higher than what it's at. How are they going to get it there? How soon are they going to get it there? And how soon are they going to get it there? If they get it there too fast, they could push us into a recession. Not necessarily good. Right now, recession's not bad because inflation's high. Biggest enemy of inflation is a recession. People are not spending money. So you got to kind of watch how far they go with it. But they did say 10 raises. So far, they've done 2. I do believe they're going to do a 50 basis point increase June 15th. They've talked about 250 basis points increase. If they do 250 basis points increase, they're almost to where he was targeting. That's in 4 raises with 6 more meetings to go. They're not going to do the 10, but it depends where they're going to be at. Inflation right now is starting to, there's some signs and indicators that inflation is starting to reach the top of the hill.
A little bit of thinking about it, like in economics, right? We have price elasticity, which fancy word for basically saying when price increases, what happens to the amount of demand, right? Does it increase? Does it decrease? It's like for insulin, for example, if you have diabetes, you're going to end up buying insulin, whether it's $600 or, $100, right. No matter what, the demand doesn't change. So a lot of what we see now, prices increase with interest rates and prices increase the last couple years, right? Because of demand, it increased. But now we're seeing prices increasing where, we should see demand lower, but we still see demand pretty high, right? So do you think the Federal Reserve is increasing the interest rates to try and curb the amount of demand that we have because it is an issue, or?
I don't think personally the Federal Reserve keeps their eye on real estate.
Yeah.
They keep their eye, I think, on inflation. And there's always that great thing. Like I said, a lot of times when I give information, I'll say, the average Social Security recipient in the United States collects, I think, receives $1,100, $1,100, something like that. And the numbers, right? And the cost of living increase, cost of living adjustments, the COLAs, whatever, are like 1% to 3% or whatever it is. I hate giving that data because I just think it's so manipulated, right? But we have to accept what they give us, and I just accepted it at that. I don't think the Fed looks at real estate. I think they look at inflation. Prices are high in everything. I remember my buddy Pete that I work out, P&P Container. You gotta remember, Pete doesn't know the price of houses are high. He has he's not buying, he's not selling, he's not doing anything. But what he does tell me is when he creates a dumpster, the price used to be $4,000 to make a dumpster. Now it's $9,000. Diesel fuel just broke $5 a gallon. It's never been anywhere near that price. It was like $1 a gallon, $2 a gallon, whatever it was. Now it's over $5 a gallon. So that's him. He sees, so in his world, he's like, I wonder if the Federal Reserve is looking at the price of containers and gas and diesel gas and this and this and this. We're sitting here saying, I wonder if they're looking at real estate and trying to curb the buyer demand. I think the Fed's looking at inflation. And they're simply saying that inflation's too high, people are spending too much money too fast, and we have to slow that spending down. And the way that we slow spending down is by raising rates to a level that people just won't buy anymore. So, I use my American Express credit card to charge everything because I like getting my points. The second that American Express says, Hesh, we're going to raise the rate to 50%, and every time you charge once, there's an automatic fee on it, I'm done. I'm going back to just paying cash. So I don't think the Fed looks at real estate. They look at inflation. Inflation is too high. They've got to raise the rate. That's what they've been doing.
Yeah, but like you said, so if they do it too fast, they raise the rates too fast, go into a recession, which, unfortunately is, not very good.
Yeah, it's not good. The answer is always somewhere in between. So the fact of the matter is that they can't raise it too fast, otherwise they shove us into a recession. If they raise it too slow and they act too slow, then they can prolong this disaster, which is people paying the prices they're paying. Because don't forget, people in households where a household income's $50,000 a year, diapers, baby formula, milk, food, gas, the essentials, to somebody making $14 an hour, even $15 an hour, even $17 an hour.
Yeah.
That's tough, man. That's a hard in this economic environment. Somebody who makes $200,000, $300,000, $500,000, I would argue they're not really affected by the prices of things right now.
Yeah.
But so if they move too slow, middle America can just get wiped out. If they move too fast, they can shut the whole system down, which is bad also.
Yeah.
So I think the job of the Reserve is very difficult because they also have people like me criticizing every single inch they move. And it's a tough job. It's a very hard job.
Yeah. And throughout history, it always just seems like it's always the middle class who ends up paying for everything, unfortunately, without getting political or anything.
Yeah, we could discuss this. I was having a very interesting conversation yesterday with one of our branch managers over the politics behind certain decisions. She's on one end of the spectrum. I'm on the other end of the spectrum. We're not so much on different ends of the spectrum. We agree. We're actually somewhere, we're each closer to the middle in the bigger picture, but there's certain specifics that I'm on one side, she's on the other side. And we're having a very good conversation. And it's funny because with her, I can have very good political conversations and it doesn't turn into like a fist fight. It's hard to talk about those topics just with anybody. It's just hard. So, it's an interesting dynamic out there right now. It's very interesting.
Absolutely. And kind of as we wrap up a little bit of our conversation, again, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And so I want to go into just general business and life advice, right? Because like you said, it's no doubt. Things are hard right now for a lot of people, and sometimes you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and sometimes you do get the anxiety, depression, stuff like that. So I know we talked a little bit about advice for loan officers, real estate agents in general, but just general life advice, I guess, for anybody who is out there, kind of struggling, they don't know the direction they're wanting to go.
Right. I mean, the simplest advice, the first thing I always say, Chris, is discover your why. Why do you exist on the planet? Now, that doesn't mean, for God's sakes, go and take some deep dive into the human brain and take the next 10 years of your life trying to search for an answer that ultimately doesn't exist, okay? But discover your why. Why do you exist? Why do you get up in the morning? That's one key that I think everybody has to do, to the point of writing down, like, what are your dreams, goals, short-term, long-term? What are your plans? What do you want? I don't care if it's Lamborghinis and cars and suits and ties and fancy clothes and jewelry. I don't care if it's lifestyle. I want to relax, take 2 days off a week, have a family, whatever it all is. Write it all down and identify why you even exist. Why are you here? I think that's a first point. The second thing is I think, Chris, you have to be appreciative to be alive and wake up every single day. Mm-hmm. With my experience that I've given you in the past, of course, 18,000 times, too many times, I'm sure, is the one thing I say every single morning I wake up, I say, thank you, God, I'm here. And I'm not religious. I've never read the Bible. I really have no intentions of ever reading the Bible. Even though I'm a very avid reader today, I'm not going to read the Bible. Don't go to church. I've only been to churches for weddings and funerals. But I'm thankful every single morning I wake up. I do believe there's a higher power. And I just say, thank you, God, every time I wake up every day, because I'm alive. And if I can make it to sleep every day, that means it's a good day. Yeah. I always tell people I don't have bad days. I have bad moments and days, but not bad days. If I woke up and I'm healthy, I went to sleep and I'm healthy, it's a good day. Maybe I had bad moments in that. I have a very good friend right now who has stage 4 liver cancer. That's a tough situation. So for me to wake up and say, interest rates have gone up, my business is slow, things have turned down and we're in a downturn, I think that's a little selfish and short-sighted of me to say that and then dwell on it and be upset about it when there's other people who have been given, medical diagnosis that their time is limited. Mm-hmm. So I have the second thing I say to people is be appreciative of your situation, that you're even alive and you're here. And if you could have that type of perspective that, you know what, I'm here, screw it. I'm living another 40 to 50 years, whatever it is, or another 30 to 40 years. I'm appreciative of the opportunity I have. If you focus on those two things, why am I here? And I'm thankful that I'm here. Everything else comes and goes. Life goes up, life goes down. The market comes up, the market goes down. Mm-hmm. That's my advice to anybody struggling. Now, when you're struggling financially, if you told me all of that when I was struggling financially back in 2009 especially, part of me would have been saying, like, stick it. Like, yeah. I can't call my credit card company and tell them, hey, I'm thankful I'm alive. I got to pay these bills. Yeah. That ain't paying the bills. The truth is it is paying the bills because it clears your mind. It clears your focus to do what I say to do, which is shut up, leave the excuses at the door. I don't want to hear them. Sometimes, this will sound a little bit harsh to the TV audience out there, sometimes work comes before family. That's a lot of people will say, oh my God, I can't believe he's saying that. I'll throw another one out there. Work-life balance, there's no such thing. That's a big joke. Yeah. That is the biggest joke on the planet Earth. Work-life balance. Let me translate that. All the people that say, I want a work-life balance, let me translate it. It's, I don't want to work and I just want to be paid money. That's all the truth is. Don't give me this garbage of work-life balance. There isn't one. Here's reality. You're either working, you're relaxing, you're doing something in between. I'm thankful I'm here. I know my why. Now, if you're struggling, shut up, get up, step up, and work. And don't work for like a week and a half. If you're struggling the way I was in 2009, you better get ready to work for the next 1 to 3 years. No vacations, no sick days, no nothing. Control your budget. Make the tough decisions. Your friends are going out to dinner, going to movies. You ain't going. Mm-hmm. Watch your diet. Watch what you're eating. Make sure you get in your exercise. Mind, body, spirit. Control all of that stuff. If you take all of that together, Chris, in one thing, I guarantee because I've lived it, that is how you get out of where you are. If you want to make excuses, woe's me, somebody else has it better than me, you'll never get out. There's no arguing with you. So when people tell me, Chris, Hesh, I can't do that, I'll disagree with them. I say, you're right. I'm not going to argue with you. Why am I going to argue with you? Nobody wins an argument when you're arguing with a fool, right?
And not to put wrestlers on a pedestal by any means, but a lot of that stuff is intense, right, to the average viewer. But when you say that to a lot of wrestlers, I mean, it doesn't seem as intense. You know what I mean?
No, because they've heard it, they've lived it. Athletes, military people, they've lived it. But again, I've had people who were never an athlete, were never in the military, that I'm like, man, I wish I had that person on my team when I was competing in wrestling.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's military people that say, wow, that person's a good military person. You know, it's no excuses. Leave the excuses at the door and just step up and you got to work. And that's true. It's not work for a week and a half either. I mean, I tell people, Chris, financially, I had a bad decade from 2007 to 2014. That was a bad decade for me. I didn't have a bad year. I had a bad decade where every single morning I woke up, it was, am I going bankrupt? I literally woke up every day saying, am I going to declare bankruptcy? Every single day for a 10-year period. That's intense. But also my goals are very high. So had my goal been, I'm just going to go make this salary work for the rest of my life, which is fine. You don't have to make millions of dollars to be a winner. I don't define people by their money, but I will tell you, a lot of people make what they make and they're miserable and they complain all day. If you're not happy with where you are, there's nobody else's fault other than your own. Get up and go do something about it. Go create something. I've had people say, Khash, you know, you should pay that person more money. You go pay them. Go create your own company. Take your money. You go pay them more money, and then God bless you. Pay them whatever you want to pay them. So I mean, stay focused, be appreciative, stay thankful, narrow your vision, execute the actions today. Don't worry about yesterday. Don't worry about the future. Don't look at the total picture. If you look at the total picture, it's going to be overwhelming. Stay focused on the task at hand.
100%.
That's the advice I give people whose backs are against the wall.
100%. And then last thing, just general business advice. You know, you've started up 2 companies, right?
Yeah, actually more than that. Actually,
okay.
Start going into my construction. My first official business was United States Construction. That thing's probably still incorporated or something like that. I don't know if I liquidated it.
Oh my God!
Ohio,
so you started a couple of companies. Liberty Home Mortgage being your most successful.
Sure, 100%. Yes.
Yeah. So you know, people who are wanting to get into business, start their own business, entrepreneur, whatever it may be. What advice would you give him or her?
My business advice to build a successful business: number 1, don't have a partner. Number 1 rule: don't have a partner. Number 2 rule is pay attention to your income and your expenses. Know your income and expenses and be honest with yourself. There's my 2 pieces of business advice. If you follow that advice, you will be successful. There's no doubt in my mind you'll be successful.
Why no partner?
Why no partner? Now, I've had people say, Khash, but General Motors has partners. Okay, when you get up to 200,000 employees, we'll revisit my thought process. But when you're small being even a few hundred people, or whatever it is, a few thousand people, or just 1 or 2 or 3, but you got to start somewhere, right? Start with 1. No partner, because quite honestly, and there's a lot of businesses that have been successfully run with 10 people and 2 of the people are partners. Great. I'm willing to bet money that there's been more partnerships that have turned into disasters than the other way around. No partner, because I go back to one of the partnerships I had in the past. My now ex-business partner, he wanted special wallpaper for the wall. I was like, let's just sell loans. He wants special wallpaper for the wall. But legitimately, to be fair about it and diplomatic about it, that's what made him happier in that office, was special wallpaper for the wall. I didn't want it. He wanted it. So suddenly you have a difference of opinion. I wanted the carpets this color. He wanted them that color. You go to the simplest things. The next thing you know, it's like, God, we can't agree upon anything. And then you start going into the complex decisions. It's World War X.
Yeah.
So having a business partner, I just don't think it's a good idea, because it's too many opinions, when the truth is everyone's got to work. You know, that's why not having a business partner is 1. Knowing your income and expenses is the other, because you've got to follow your budget. You don't have a budget, you're in problems. I've had so many people, Chris, and you'll know this from talking to self-employed people. I'll say, can you give me a profit and loss? Hesh, I don't have one. My accountant has it. Good, you're going out of business. Or that's why you're struggling right now and you show no income, is because you have no idea where your finances are. I could actually tell you today, right now, through this past Sunday, what the expenses are for our company this month in May, just for the month of May, or this year, to the penny, quite literally. That's because every weekend I reconcile all the numbers of this company.
Yeah.
We're a $50 million gross revenue business last year.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
and I would even go as far to say that piece of advice isn't even necessarily just general toward business advice. Even if you're a family, right, you should know income, expenses,
know your budget.
Know how much money is coming in and out.
I used to write down on a sheet of paper what the cable bill was, what the telephone bill was, what the electric, gas, cable, phone, utilities. I used to have it written down on a sheet of paper, and I'd write down on a sheet of paper next to it every month what it was, and I would track it. I'd say, hey, this bill's getting out of hand. Like I got to watch I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing. Again, it starts there and then it extends out to where we are today.
100%. All right, Hash. Hey, well, thank you so much
Chris,
for coming
thanks
on.
again, as usual, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Great show, great opportunity, and I just love everything you're doing. So keep doing it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hash. All right, everyone. That was episode 25, Khash Saghafi.